need to find this place or we'll be late.
Make a left on Astrology Avenue. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant right. It should be right here at 444 Spirit Way. Oh, turn.
It looks like Renee. Yay, we're on time. The James and Kellee Show.
Great, let's start the show.
Hi there, honey.
Hey, Kelly, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Did you have your nice dinner?
I haven't. I'm still working on it. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
The banana's great.
Banana and peanut butter sandwich is my favorite.
Uh-huh.
It is good. Should we say hi to everybody? Hi,
Yeah.
Kyle.
Hey, everybody, hold on. All right,
Hi.
hold on.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Maureen. Hi, Pug Life. Hi, Kathleen. Hi, Sue. Hi, Sarah.
Tommy Kreider, Regina Clark from upstate New York. I'll be in upstate New York next week. Just saying.
You're good. What are you doing next week?
I'll be in upstate New York next week.
Oh, what are you doing up there?
Oh, family wedding.
Oh, just in time for our show tonight. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Oh, hi,
Hello,
Renee.
Kelly and Susan. Phyllis.
Hi, Vicky.
How have you been, Kelly?
I've been good.
You're busy working.
I've been very busy. Yeah, been working and a lot going on. You know, it's a lot going on the farm, but it's all good stuff. A lot of good stuff. Gosh, and you had a good weekend?
I had a very nice weekend in Los Angeles. Visited some friends up there. It was very interesting. And my dog Pearl had a boyfriend. So that was very good.
Fun. Isn't it great when they all get
These are
along?
dogs and humans, I think.
Yeah.
Was-
Oh,
It was a city I would not want to live in. I've been away from it for a long time. I've gone back and it was just too dense. And it was really interesting. I got off the road at someplace, Gower, and I walked my dog, and some guy was walking his dog, and he recognized me, and he just was like over the top.
which is a great story. I love that story.
He was a top, he was a bodybuilder, top bodybuilder, fitness man for all the stars. And he stopped me. He said, "James in Prague, you helped change my life. You're amazing. You changed my life." And he was really, really nice. And he walked the dog with me because he was a dog walker. And then he got his friend Tommy out. And Tommy was a model and actor on the show Yellow Gold, Kevin Costner in 1883.
Yellowstone, yeah.
Yeah. And they came out, and it was I'll show you a picture of the guy. It was pretty
Oh,
funny.
you said it to me, but show it. Yeah, he was a cute guy. Look at that. And he's with, turn it upside down. He's with Tina Turner.
Yeah, it was changes. I'm not sure.
That's okay. He was with Tina Turner and
Turner.
Angela Bassett.
Yeah, Angela Bassett used to be the one person that was a
Wow.
fitness model and so forth. So it was really him and his other friend who we it's got him Tom Shoot, and Tom Shoot is let's see, where's Tom? Tom is up here. That's Tom. That's the one that's in 1883.
Oh yeah, so cute and so cute with you too. In Beechwood Canyon.
Many years ago would look like this. Let's see. This is him. You can see close up. He was a model for the covers of Muscle magazine.
only in
Because
Beechwood
I mean,
Canyon.
there was nothing there. So, no,
think
nice
that's
people,
great.
very nice people. It's so funny. The reason I put extra books in my car. I didn't know why I did it. I just got a bunch back in my garage. And I thought, I'll just load my car because you never know who you're gonna meet. And it was really incredible.
I think
And
that's so
it was
great.
the place the first place I went to in LA, that first road. I was sitting there after I just found out I had no job in LA. And going to LA for this TV show that they promised me a job on as a runner, at the very beginning, Hill Street Blues. And they said we don't teach bring people on that way in MTM. So the man Tony Yerkovich was lying to me, and I was like, "What's going on?" And I was literally in Gower. Look up, there's a Hollywood sign behind me. Didn't have any place to stay, no place to go, because I thought they would help me out, and it didn't happen. And now here it was 20-something years later, 40 years later, 40-something years later, and there he was in the same street, and the guy telling me his life has changed because of me. And
Isn't that an amazing story?
he was calling people left and right. No, this is, this. I said, stop it.
I think it's so great, though. Super story.
And next time you come back, you two friends here, which was really nice.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
so sweet. Such a nice thing. Okay. Well, Do you want me to do a little astrology?
Yes, but is it normal for people to be stressed out? I see a lot of people being stressed out. Bernadette Desiree is, thanks. My family's emotional, spiritually, financially killing me. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, well, we're gonna talk about families.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about families here. Everybody's loving that story.
Astrologically going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but we're just going to cover one aspect, which is a big one, and that is on June 17th, Saturn, the planet of karma and truth and health and work, it turns retrograde, and it goes retrograde until November 4th. So this is a big deal to talk about it. And as I mentioned to you earlier, James, you were actually born with Saturn retrograde.
Right. So that's okay for me then.
Yes, it would. If you are, absolutely, it would mean that, there would be karma in your life. There's karma in all of our lives. Things might take a little longer, but Saturn typically brings us our karmic path. It brings us to our karmic path. And when it goes retrograde, for these first 10 days, so the 10 days that I'm talking about are happening right now, it's stationed. And when Saturn is stationed, it's very powerful. It makes things really powerful. So it also could bring up a lot of events in the world. It could, it actually could make you feel during this period of time anxious, in the extreme, moody. It could bring shocks and surprises. I'm talking about just in these 10 days, because these 10 days are very, the planet just holds its energy. So it makes it pretty intense. And so this Saturn retrograde is a great time for deep personal healing for all of us. And of course, today we're talking about families.
Well, there's a lot of karma during families, so it's great to have the show during this time.
And James, on top of that, Father's Day is on Sunday. Don't you? That's why I thought today would be a perfect day to do this. Perfect day, because we've got this. Now, I don't know if you know this, James, but Saturn is the element of air and wind. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that, no.
And so because of that, we might have things like big hurricanes or, tornadoes or things like that right now, because this energy is so intense. The other thing that I find really interesting with Saturn is it represents our root chakra. So during this period of time, in the next several months, the next 4 months, 5 months, you really want to make sure that you are taking care of your health. You want to stay as grounded as you can. And a good way to do that is to practice conscious breathing, mindfulness, meditation, all during this period of time, especially the next 2 weeks, really. But after that, for the next several months, we've got the Saturn retrograde. So good things can also happen during Saturn retrograde. An old job may return to you. It's time to make improvements in your life. It's time also to look at your life in all of its warts and everything you might have to take care of in your life. This is the time to do it now. So you'll have about 3 or 4 months, about good 4 months to do that.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So there you go. So we're going to be talking about family dysfunction today, which is one of my favorite topics, actually. I love to look deep into River City and see what's going on.
Well, they said to me at the dog park, James, I hope you go find your weirdo friends, your weirdos. And I turned to him and said, everybody's weird. Everybody's weird. So
everybody is. Everybody is. But
so.
I thought if you could talk to everybody about spiritual on the other side, how we choose our family and how that, and then I'll talk about it from a psychological standpoint once we get here.
Okay. So, for the long and short of it, it could be a whole show just on this, but let's not talk about that. But pre-birth planning is very much a thing. And Michael Newton wrote a book about it. It's a really good Destiny of Souls. Very, very good what happens in between world. But there seems to be, from my understanding, and of course, it'll be very different because Kellee, lately I've been thinking, God, we're telling everybody like 7th dimensional stuff in a 3-dimensional world. It's so hard really to understand it.
Right.
So, when I say that we've picked out our family and friends before we have, we're what we call the soul group. And what is the soul group? A group made up of people that you've shared many lifetimes before, many experiences before, you known each other before, worked with each other before, and you want to come back to perfect your relationship not only with yourself, but with your group and with the dynamic, of course, of the planet. And you want to help with all of that. And by a certain role, by learning certain things, your soul will expand and learn that and have a better understanding or comprehension of that situation. That's what I believe. So, and also there's God, there's karma with the family, karma with yourself, karma with your family, karma within a relationship with a sister, brother, mother, father. There's a karma relationship with that as well. I always go back to my analogy, which is I always just say, keep things simple because it really should be kept simple as best as it could be. But sitting in a show and observing the family, observing a play, I think is always the best way because you have the actors on stage, the mother, the father, the grandparent, and scenes happen. Different scenes happen. There's a suicide over here. There's an alcoholic over here, a drug overdose over here. A lot of things going on. Same with life. Things happen. This is a place things really happen, and we live it out here and learn from it. And the more we can pull out of it and observe it and learn, get the lesson that we're learning from it or that we're teaching, the better we are. That's my quick and easy way.
Would you think that there's always in one generation somebody that comes into the family system
Yes,
to heal it?
Yes. So there's a certain thing with karma with the whole soul group or the lineage of the line or heritage line of the family, which is certain patterns that have been presented and created and vibrations, you use the vibrations, certain patterns, certain understandings. And it's kind of not expanding, it's keeping it the same way. And there comes along within a family line a person who will break that ancestral link. I once working with a man from New York. He was an actor, and his father came through to him right there and said, "You have my card, my picture in your jacket." And the man was an actor. He was on the stage. He said every night he goes on stage to make sure his father's pocket is in his father's picture in the pocket. And he said he congratulated him. And the man later on told me he just finished his 12-step program. 20 years was anniversary or something like that. And the father said to him, "You broke the lineage. I want you to you broke the lineage."
Wow.
So we can break the lineage for sure.
Wow, James.
It happens in wealth and addiction and function, relationships. It really is happening. You solve it and heal it down here on the earth, you're better off. You don't want to carry it to another lifetime.
Right. And it's so interesting because this Saturn retrograde is really a great time. So listen up, because we're going to give you a lot of tips on how to break these cycles that we're going to talk about. But I thank you for that, James. I love that explanation of all of that because I think it's so important here. But I thought that we would talk about what exactly is a healthy system and what exactly do I even mean by a family system.
Yeah. So go right for that, Kelly. You start right ahead.
I'll start that. So I have to laugh because my master's is actually in family systems, psychology, family systems. So it's near and dear to my heart. And
I think it's hysterical that right now I'm working with you in your little book there about your family. So to me, this is hysterical, but go on.
My brother is so funny. I said to him, "You want to watch the show tonight?" He said, "What's it about?" And I told him and he goes, "Be nice." That's for you, buddy.
Read the book.
Read the book. Actually, honey, you come out a hero in the book. Okay. Okay, so what defines a family system? So a family system is simply a group of people living in one household who share a common familial history, mother and father and sister and brother, that look after each other's physical and emotional needs. Okay, that's the definition of a family system. And so now I'm going to talk about what is a healthy family system. And then we're going to go into dysfunctional. But what a healthy family system is one where family members nurture and support each other and they understand boundaries. Imagine that. And family relationships are close and the individual members within a family have a strong sense of emotional well-being. So that's the definition of a healthy family system.
And they love each other.
And they love each other.
Freely.
Freely, unconditionally. Exactly. They're free to roam about the cabin. So Renee, could you put that picture up? I found this picture and to me, I thought it's a spiritual picture and I thought it was just so sweet. And this is from Yogananda. And he said that parents are the physical instruments of God who manifest on earth as the parental love that creates and protects the child, which I thought that was lovely. And I only wish that to be true. You know?
And the lion eats the cub. No,
that's right. That's when the dad turns on the mom.
That way, I don't know.
Oh God. Oh yeah, here we go. So let's talk about what is a dysfunctional family. Oh, I'm glad you asked. Okay. Raise your hand if you've had one or if you know of one. A dysfunctional family is one that is mirrored in conflict, chaos, a lack of structure, or indifference so that the child's physical and emotional needs cannot be met. So factors that can impair a family's functioning include poor parenting, distressed or abusive environments, substance abuse, mental illness, chronic physical illness, and poor communication. So life in a functional family is emotionally tumultuous. Relationships between members of the family are typically tense. There's abuse, neglect, and secrecy are common. Yelling and screaming often is the only way that they know how to communicate. So that is a dysfunctional family. And an example, I mean, everybody can tell us an example, but I mean, some quick examples, basically. Like, let's say there was a 2-parent household. The dad has a drinking problem. He comes home. He physically abuses anyone and everyone who gets in his way. And then the next morning, he reminds the family that what happens in the house stays in the house. Wow. And they should never tell anyone what goes on there. Now, that's a big one because family secrets are huge. They will destroy something. And, you know, one thing I do want to mention, James, before I forget, is nothing is lost in a family system. And what do I mean by that? We're going to talk about generational trauma, but nothing is lost in a family system. So let's say a grandfather molested somebody in his generation. It will come down the pike in another generation and another generation. Wow. Or let's say there was alcohol or drugs or family secrets. Affairs are big here, where you think the son will find out that his father has an affair, and then the son will say, well, I would never do that. Next thing you know, the son is doing that. So it goes, you know, like this, everything until somebody steps up and says, I've had enough of this bullshit. I've had enough. And that's really what it takes.
Suicide, Kellee.
Oh, suicide is one of the doors that's open. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
I love what you say about suicide, which is when you talk about there might be that one that comes in with suicide to wake the family members up, basically, to help the family members get, you know, because there's always that identified patient. But the problem with suicide is in a generation, again, we could go back. Well, let me just say, in family constellation therapy, they go 13 generations back and 13 going forward. Now, in psychology, we usually just look at the first 3 generations. So even if I go 3 generations and somebody in the family suicided, that door is open. And that means in another generation, the grandchild might hear the story or unconsciously pick up the story or genetically pick up the story. It's a weird thing.
Or it also might, anything's possible. So it might be another member of that soul group has decided to take on those lessons at that particular time that the other soul completed suicide and go through it for the soul group. That might happen as well. And soul groups, as people in Kellee's book, she writes about this in Spiritual Awakening, we have many different types. And one of the ones which I've worked with, and Kellee's worked with many, many years, the most common is loss of a child. And that will many, many times is an opportunity to force the mother and father to go on the spiritual path, to enlighten them, to awaken them up. And that's quite common that happens. I've seen it in my lifetime, many, many clients whose lives changed, not only because they lost a child, but spirituality is completely, it's a different world for them now because they have spirituality in their lives.
Absolutely.
And spirituality is not religion, by the way. It's very different. So
well, you know, speaking of religion, there's also what will really do harm in a family system is a belief system that we only are this way, Southern Baptist, or we only are this, or we only are this, and nothing else is accepted. That will also harm a family pretty quickly.
Yeah, but Brian Weiss, who I used to work with, past life regression, he said, I loved it very much. He goes, anything of the extreme is hurtful. So anything in life that's extreme is hurtful. So someone would say, how about a cup of coffee? That's okay in moderation. Or a glass of wine. That's okay in moderation. Everything's okay in moderation. And it's very, very true. It's very, very true.
So true, James. It's so true. I just want to give this one. This is another example. Maybe you had a single mother who treated the oldest child like a best friend and a confidant. The mother relies on this child for her emotional needs, and then she doesn't like it when the child goes out and socializes with her own friends. These are examples of dysfunction. Okay, now there's fighting between siblings or a husband and wife. That's normal. But if it consistently exhibits like the following signs, which I'm going to give, it could be very dysfunctional. And
Kellee, it's part karma too, right?
Oh, karma? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, if we talk about it from a karmic standpoint, James, then this would be something that somebody comes in to clean up this family or to make, often it's the black sheep in the family,
It
believe it or
usually
not.
is. And many times if you feel you're in it and it is karmic, so
Mhm.
just put yourself in a space of, okay, what am I learning and what am I teaching? Wait, either one or the other. I'm learning something or I'm teaching something with
Oh,
someone.
I love that.
And that will help you to get out of that, to break that chain. That will definitely help.
Right, right. So there are three rules in a dysfunctional family, which I find is you can tell, and I'm going to have a little thing for everybody to do to discover if they have a dysfunctional family, which I'm sure they already do. But number one is they don't talk. So people in dysfunctional families, we don't talk about our family problems, and we don't talk to each other, and we don't talk to outsiders. Okay, there you go. Number two, we don't trust. We don't trust. Okay, whatever's out there, we don't trust. And number three, which is really screwed, is we don't feel. So you're not allowed to feel. That's a terrible thing.
I'm watching Succession now, and that's all through all of those kids. And I haven't watched it yet, but I'm watching one scene in particular where they just show some emotion, and none of them are able to. They're just not capable of it.
James, that's one of the greatest shows ever.
It is, and it's secret, and you can't trust, and
it's all the most dysfunction. So here are some of the things, if you'll know if you're in a dysfunctional family: denial and secrecy, poor communication, a closed system where family members are actually afraid to step up, to speak up, or they're afraid to get help from outside sources. And let me just mention that about therapy, because therapy is one way to break the cycle. But what happens in a dysfunctional family, and this actually happened in my own family, if you can believe this one. My mother, as you know, was a brilliant psychologist, and my father was so pissed off that she had gone to grad school and became a psychologist that he would throw away all of her books in the trash can. So my mother would be getting her PhD. She'd have to climb in the trash can, get her books out. Oh yeah, I didn't put that part in the book.
No,
because, you know what, James?
I
didn't. There's just too much in there.
I would edit it out. Don't worry.
All right, there you go. But another thing he did is he would say, and I've heard this from many families, you don't see a psychologist. They're crazy. Are you crazy? If you see one, you're crazy. And that was the party line. If you see a therapist, then you're the one with the problem, and then you're really sick.
Well, and in the book, your mother was always by your side. She held
Always.
She of all people made you learn that you weren't crazy.
Oh, please. I always.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But also, so in a dysfunctional family, there are rigid rules. There's restricted friendships and isolation. Often you notice they will isolate you. There's verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, blaming, conflict, hostility. There's role reversal. So that's called parentification. I was actually the parent in my family. Lack of empathy and respect, unrealistic expectations of children, failure to respect boundaries. I mean, how often have we talked about that, right? Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, extramarital affairs. That's huge. No boundaries between parents and children. Also using children for revenge. That is a huge one too that I see. Oh, it's awful. And love withdrawal or conditional love. It's awful, right, James? I mean, it's just awful. And do you know that when you're young, that actually, if you grow up in a household like this, it actually changes your brain waves. It actually changes your brain waves. So, and it can lead to behavioral disorders and substance abuse and depression. And then again, what happens? The whole thing starts up again, right? The whole thing.
First step is awareness. Observe it, acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And the next thing is, I don't know, it's so hard because you can try to get your family to talk to therapists and so forth and go to therapy, but it won't. So you're really down to yourself.
Well, it's really funny that you would say that. There was a great therapist, he was a psychiatrist actually, Dr. Mnuchin, and I just loved him. He died about 4 or 5 years ago. I got to see him speak. He believed in bringing all the families together, and the whole family would come together and have therapy. Now, what world would that happen? I mean, I used to go, really? How does everybody come together to go into therapy? I find that hard to believe, but there were families that would do it because then he could see, who's this and who's this, and you can tell when you have a family together who's talking to whom, who sits next to whom, who's codependent on the other one. I mean, you can see the dysfunction. It's pretty wild to be able to watch all of that.
That goes to show you that you're really responsible for just yourself, because you can do the microcosm, and the macrocosm will take care of itself in its own way.
Right.
You can only do so much. You can't live someone else's journey for them. And by taking care of this, they might sense it and they'll feel it, and then you've done something because there'll be boundary work in place. So,
right,
that's all you're responsible for.
It's always important to remember this: you cannot change others.
No,
you just can't. And so you actually can only think
it's an illusion.
It's an illusion. You can only change yourself and your behavior, and that's it. That's all you can do here. Right. So it's very interesting. But here's some steps for breaking generational cycles. So I thought I would give some information about how to do that, since we're really talking about dysfunctional families. And anybody who's watching this, you may be the one that's here to break your family, the cycle of that we're talking about. Yeah. So the first thing I want you to do is, take a note of the belief system in your family. Like, make note of it. Is it, and these could be generational cycles that you're actually observing, like we don't talk, drugs, alcohol. What are the beliefs? What were you told? I'm not good enough. You're dumb. You're smart. You have to work. I don't know. Whatever your story is, I'd be curious. Write it down so you start to become aware of it. And then the second thing you want to do after that, you want to take note of the beliefs in your family system. Then you want to identify the family pattern of behavior, alcohol, drugs, affairs, suicide, anything that that you can look at, personality disorders. How about that? That's a big one, right? Mother, father, narcissist, borderline. You want to look at that. Then you want to look at the siblings, right?
Conspiracy theory.
Oh, please. Oh my God. That's a big one, right?
Yeah.
And then the third thing is you really want to begin to heal the toxic patterns. So how does one do that? I'd start in therapy. There are a lot of great books if you don't want to do that. You have a lot of great books to read on family dynamics. And then from there, number 4, you start to define the priorities in your life. What are your priorities? Like, you want to get yourself in the best way possible. You really want to make big shifts in your life here. And the last thing is set boundaries with your family.
It's all boundary work, really. It's all boundary work. But first, got to know who you are.
Yes.
And you do got to know who you are. What you're letting in. Is it, it's so funny. It goes back to that thing you read months ago about which one gets fed, the little one that, Yeah. I forget the whole thing. But it really is which fear or love gets fed. And are you loving yourself or are you afraid of yourself? What's the point? Yeah. So you got to really know yourself strongly.
You have to know this. So Pam Thomas DuBoc says, my father said many times to me that no one wanted to hear anything I had to say. That's awful, Pam. So if I were you, I would be screaming from the rooftops. That's what I'd be doing. But really start paying attention to that. That's what's called an introject. And we always try to pull those introjects out. Just because you were given that information does not make it accurate. So you want to start pulling that, that bullshit thing out. Okay.
And it's very interesting when someone says, they want to hear what you're saying. It'll affect many times the voice,
the fifth chakra.
And you can hear clairaudience, the clairvoyance, also the speech. So that might be effective for her.
Right. Regina Joyce Clark says 80 to 90% of families on Earth are dysfunctional. Oh, at least. Why on earth do we come here for this kind of life?
97% of the people are unconscious. So there you go. They're asleep.
Exactly. Exactly. So why do we come here? We come here to break family patterns. We come here to grow our soul, to grow.
Expansion, understanding.
Compassion. Okay, Susie Burrows, good question, Susie. She said, "Are adopted members in this group?" Yes, absolutely, absolutely. 100%. And in family constellation therapy,
there's also adoption.
There's the birth parents and the adopted parents. So yeah, it's a lot. And then when people get married, then what happens? They come in, they bring in a spouse, and maybe that spouse doesn't know the family system, or maybe that spouse brings out her own or his own family system. That's a mess. Oh,
Kelly, here's one. It's a great one. Lou Loperman. Sue Loperman. I have a unique situation. My sister was adopted as a baby. I was adopted into our family. There it is. It was a family. A mom was adult. Now there's principally just the two of us left. We lost our spouses this past week.
Wow.
One week apart. Lost her brother who lived with her and her son. The last couple months, she was pulling away, depression. The other day, she kicked me out of her life for her reasons. I mentioned President Trump and talked about the great things about her son. The other thing she said about him is that he was mentally blah, blah, blah. So that's done.
Yeah,
No.
well, I mean,
I think it's a karmic thing, too.
yeah, I'd say so, too.
That adoption.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got my doggy in. But
Yeah.
my room.
Definitely a karmic situation there. Let's see. But thank you for that. Let's see here. Okay. Susie Everett, I did years of therapy groups, went to college, took classes in addiction studies and criminal justice. I learned a lot about my own family and myself. Bravo, Susie. I mean, that is really, really important. Really important that you did that.
It's really, you also got to remember, you've got to approach this in a non-judgmental way. There's no reason to judge someone else. Okay, they didn't do this, they didn't fulfill this ability that you really wanted them to do as a mother or a father. As a sibling, it is what it is, and that's all that it is. And maybe they're not capable of that. So you got to say, you can't judge them about it because they didn't know any better.
Right, exactly. So this is from Trey. Trey says his mom's brother killed himself. I sense now he was gay and the family didn't approve. He said, I'm gay and my older sister is gay. And my stepmom was a Jehovah Witness. Oh, dear God. Or the Jehovah Witness thing. Oh, you want to talk about a mess there. I tried suicide 5 different times in ways. Oh, Trey, I'm so sorry, honey. I mean, oh, that's a tough one, isn't it? You know, I mean, I'm sure you've learned, you could probably teach this class, you know, you're, as James has said many times, it's like you're getting your PhD in this class, in this lifetime, you know, just remember that.
True.
So that is a big one there. Tammy Lynn Crimer, she said, I did set boundaries and James helped me to be able to do just that. And it took me 57 years, but I've never felt better about myself.
Right. Good for you.
Bravo. I think that's fantastic. Okay, I think that's just great. So let's see. Donna Cunning said, I was told I had no power because I didn't have money and my father had all the money and he used it to make us powerless. That sounds like Succession, and that's awful, Donna. That is awful, awful, awful. And that's a narcissist. I mean, and when you're dealing with a family member, mother, father, sibling, or particularly mother and father, if there is a narcissist or a personality disorder or borderline personality disorder or sociopath or any of it, it's very tough. You have to literally break away, set boundaries, and read every book on that, on personality disorders, and it'll make you feel better. You'll learn a lot, but it's a tough one. That's a really tough one. And James, why do you think we choose parents like that?
Well, to learn, the harder they are, the easier. It's going to be hard to learn, but nothing comes easy. But there are some. Listen, I've known many souls who have come back with wonderful, incredible parents, and they get along quite well. So it's not everybody, but anybody in your life, whether they're siblings or a partner, that really push your buttons. You're learning from the most of those people.
Yeah,
there's something about yourself which is not in wholeness of being if you judge those people. Something's not right. So don't judge it. They just don't know any better. That's not right, and you have to teach them. That's not acceptable. To me, that's not acceptable. That's what's going to happen. That's why you're put in that place. Remember, every day is a teacher or a student in your space.
Absolutely. Renee Wentz says, I was told you're pretty, so just find someone to marry you. That was a big thing in our generation, Renee.
I know.
I suspect,
or you have had money to marry them.
Or if you had money, that's very true.
Yeah.
I suspect I was sexually abused, but I don't remember it. I just suspect it. If you suspect, you know, you might want to get into therapy with that one.
You get a lot of people who say they were sexually abused, but they probably weren't, but they want the attention.
Listen to this one. I get that a lot. No, I get a lot of sexual abuse people, but one of the ones, this happened twice in a week, James. I thought this was unbelievable. Women in their early 60s, okay, that are dealing with sexual abuse trauma from years ago. I mean, years ago, 45 years ago, 50 years ago. By their, wait for it, their brother-in-laws. Two separate situations.
Wow.
It was, and they all died, so they couldn't confront them.
Wow.
Yeah,
well,
it's a big one.
Yeah,
it's a big one.
But something about it when they come back. I wasn't confronted here. It wasn't put to rest here. So it might have to be lived out again.
Yeah. Oh my God. Diane Schutz, she says, when my sister told me that I was going to hell for being gay, she alienated me. I love my sister, but do not like her. Little does she know that her own son is gay.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
God.
pretty interesting things that happen with the religion and gay and all things.
Oh, it's unbelievable, James.
Wow, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy. Okay, Kara Nuttall, she said, can we go through the issues on our own, separate from other family members, forgiveness, boundaries, and estrangement? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You can do this on your own. Absolutely. I would start into therapy. Traumahealing.org is a great place to start, or Psychology Today, looking for a therapist. It's really helpful to have a therapist going through a lot of this, but you can also do a lot of work on your own, if that's okay with you.
And there might be 12-step programs, Kellee, I would
There's
think.
12-step programs. Oh my gosh, James, there's so many different programs that you can go to. And this is a big one. Family. This is from Kathy Cirinelli. She said, I had to finally cut my mother out of my life after she committed felony bank fraud, taking out over $150,000 in unsecured debt when she was on Social Security using my personal information. Wow. I'm assuming your mother was a sociopath. I mean, that's just my go-to. I am sorry, Kathy. That's an awful situation. I mean, isn't it amazing, James, when you hear some of the stories?
Must be advanced children, advanced students here.
It would have to be. I mean, talk about learning boundaries. Wow. Let's see. It's just unbelievable. Leanne Stockham, she said, I've started chipping away at that stuff too. Good for you. She said, I've got a diploma in health certificate for alcohol and other drugs, along with lots of therapy. Good for you, Leanne.
Here's Lila Owenson says, I was just ignored. Told to read and work as if getting married won't be an option for me. Colorism was an issue in my family. Yeah. I wonder what year that was. Yeah, colorism.
Oh,
yeah.
God, James. It's awful.
There's a new POC, as I guess a friend of mine up in LA. What is that? People of color. I said, oh, I didn't know they were letters for this. Gosh. It's just so strange. I was watching a show last night all about it was a great movie called Marshall, Thurgood Marshall. It's based on Thurgood Marshall. It was over 3 years ago. I watched it over the weekend. It was just, he was in many ways greater than Martin Luther King Jr. He kind of started the movement up, and amazing movie, Marshall. But it gets to show. I've always been colorblind. I never understood the whole that.
Right.
They're better than everybody else.
It's so ridiculous. Okay, Barbara Stein, she said, let me tell you a good side to this family dynamics. My father drank and was abusive. One time he said something to me that not only shocked me, but it broke my heart. Now here's where the trust comes in. My mother walked up to me, looked at me and said, why would you believe that? Good for her. She said, wow, I had a total different relationship with him after that. I could love him for who he was. Inside was a good person.
That's it.
Wow. God. So your mother broke the pattern also then. I think that's great. Debbie Jones Griffin. Hi, Debbie. What if you have a sibling who is calling all the shots because he is now taking care of the mother after her husband passed and only allows certain family members to communicate with her? That doesn't allow the sibling. He doesn't like to see her call the mother, even though the siblings took care of her for years. He's very narcissistic and truly thinks he knows everything. This is a friend of my family, and it has been broken. My friend's heart is she's not allowed to see or call her mother. It's so awful when that happens, Debbie. It's so awful.
It's common, Debbie.
It's common. Gosh, it is common, sadly. I mean, that's when you look at these, personality disorders. It's awful. Yeah, I'm sorry. It is. Okay, Ricky Tenhoff. But we pick our parents before we get here in order to learn our lessons in this lifetime.
Exactly.
Yes. And that's in all lessons here. That's all lessons.
So it's just to play these games, these roles we take on, these games that we play. And that's how we learn what not to do, what's right to do, how you hurt people, how you don't hurt people. Because all that's going back to yourself. It comes right back to yourself. Learn to hate yourself, love yourself. It all comes back to self.
Okay, this is a good one from Sherry Abdu. What language would you use with an older, well-meaning family member that projects their fears and chronic complaining from the minute you see them? Okay, this is how I swear I have a situation, and this is exactly what I do. Okay, I've had enough. I can't hear anymore. I don't care how old. I don't care. I can't tolerate negativity. I can't tolerate it. And James, you do the same thing.
I'll leave the room.
Yeah, you've seen it.
Yeah, it wastes too much time and energy and limits space. No, thank you.
Oh my God, wake them up. It's not too late. Okay, Teresa Miller, please talk about having a narcissist in the family, whether a child or a parent can destroy family. Love to you both. Yes, a narcissist in the family, I call them the best teachers because they will teach you how to set boundaries. They will teach you to respect yourself and to leave. They're the worst. Narcissists are awful. James, what would you say on that? It can destroy a family, and I've seen it destroy families.
Yeah, and you have to. It's really hard because they're in their own head, and part of it has to be a mental issue of some kind, Kelly. I don't know, but
well, if we really go back, I mean, there's ways we can look at this spiritually, or I can look at it through the lens of trauma. Often, the parents of the narcissist were, they also had a lot of narcissism. I mean, it's passed down. It's passed down. Or they're through war or through, head injuries. I mean, there are a lot of ways this can happen.
Yeah, but, and also it's so ironic because they really want everything. They are everything. And I found a lot of narcissists at the end of their lives, they collect a lot of stuff.
Oh, they're hoarders.
They're hoarders because they're not fulfilled.
Yeah, because they actually feel empty inside, and that's the key right there.
They want to feel important, so they fill their lives, but they want to feel important to other people as well. And every situation in life, and they're in control of it. But they really, inside, they feel very empty. So they try to collect everything they possibly can.
Right. And they will, if they could, destroy a family. Yeah. So that's why boundaries. Angela Gabrick, she says, it has taken 70 years for me to drop the family members who are toxic. Bravo. And often it will take that long. If you live long enough, it could take that long. I had a young woman the other day, James, she was about 40 years old. And she said to me, God, I feel like it took me forever to drop my parents. I said, how old are you? You're 40? That's nothing. 40, you've got rid of you stopped the abuse from your narcissistic parents. I thought I was so impressed with that. I couldn't believe it. Because it takes a long time to do it. It
took me 23 years at one point. So it does. It happens.
That's right. Tamura Roby says, I wonder if narcissistic being involved in my life has to do with karma. It could. I mean, it absolutely could. It could be what are you learning from that person? Are you learning that you really do love yourself and enough to leave? Are you, you have to really think in those terms.
And in another way, it's really interesting as Eckhart Tolle talks about the various vibrations of things, frequencies of energy. That frequency of narcissism, the more you pay attention, the more you give it feed, the more you feed it, the more you give it energy of narcissistic stuff, it kind of like evolves into something else. So if you end it, that's the best way to be, and set the vibration in a positive way or a loving way. That person is going to be compassionate in another lifetime.
Right, exactly. That's so true. Okay, Tanya Spencer Mays. My father was Jehovah Witness, and he completed suicide when I was 10. My mother and grandfather are narcissists. I mean, that's a real dysfunctional family system, Tanya. So I would actually probably seek out a family constellation therapist for anybody who's listening here. I really would do that. I would suggest Carrie Gonia, but I think she's booked until next year. And I'm really serious. Family constellation therapy.
Yeah. And Tanya's also very psychic. So you've been a conflict between that and religion. So, you're very, very empathetic and sensitive. So time to honor that as well.
Okay. Amy Wilson, what happens if you can't heal all the family? Do we have a do-over? No, you work on yourself.
Yeah. That's the best thing you can do is work on yourself. And that's all you're responsible this lifetime is to really get yourself in order, to know yourself and to work on yourself and to love yourself. And by loving yourself, other people are shown how to love. Right. And that's one thing you are responsible for. Others get it or they won't.
Oh, absolutely. Kathleen M., she says, my mother was suicidal. Should I worry about my daughter and granddaughter? Well, did your mother complete suicide or did she have suicidal thoughts? But I would actually, always make sure they have a good therapist, see what's going on, keep the family system open. Don't have it a closed family. You want to make sure that you're talking to them. You want to talk, okay? Keep all the doors open with all of that.
And Vivian Lester says, for those who come with a dysfunctional family, are they that way on the other side? Are we with
good
friends?
Question.
Well, you always see the best of that person on the other side. So if there's a mental thing, it's a mental disorder that stays down here, physical disorder down here, emotional. There'll be memories of it, but they'll and it's really weird. Kind of step out of it and see it for what it was. Like my sister, when she was here and she died, I saw her in my garden, it was all beautiful. And she said I couldn't see love and I couldn't see beauty in this lifetime. I just couldn't see it. And there's some souls that couldn't see certain things. So
Hmm.
you see it, you see they see their potential when they pass over, and those ways they treat you seem to be there's a natural understanding of this was an earth life together. We're really not like that. We chose to be like that from one fear or another. It's
Hmm.
insecurity usually.
God. Joni Dwayne Gibson. I was always told I'm too fat and will get nowhere in life and I am unlovable. Oh, dear God, Joni, what a horrible interject. Again, we call that an interject, something that that was literally pushed down your
Well, that's
throat.
not true.
It's
You're
not
correct where
true.
you are, and don't change who you are.
Right, right. Oh my gosh. Isn't it awful, James, what families can do?
It's horrible. And that thing I've heard a report that one negative comment, it takes like 20 positive comments,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
No, I think it was like 99 or something, like
Right.
100.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable.
That's why we have to be good to each other, because some negative things have happened. Maybe that'll help to neutralize the bad with the good.
Right,
Think of it
right.
that way.
Oh my God. Um,
I did
okay.
a great boundary work today.
You did? Oh,
Yeah.
with somebody?
Yeah.
Oh,
Someone was right on my bumper of my car, right on there. And I rolled down the window and I went, "Get away, get away." And they did.
and they did.
They did.
Good.
People are driving unconsciously. And I was like, no, no, no.
I can't stand
Be with
it.
the kids. Don't
God.
right.
Karen Sweeney, Kelly or James, do you believe if you were a perpetrator next lifetime, you would become the victim?
Yes. 110%.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you answered that.
Yep. Same if
Okay.
you made fun of certain nationalities, you'll become one of those. Let's see what it's like. Definitely, definitely. I've worked with Brian Weiss for many years. That's come up a lot.
Oh my gosh. Okay, okay, here we go. Melissa, what about sibling rivalry when your brother turns on you because of his wife putting words in your mom's mouth that never was said? So I've seen families do all kinds of things, turn on you. And again, only thing that you can do is really work on yourself
That's why you never
and
can
set boundaries.
and never look at someone else in the family and say, "Oh, that's right. It must have been me," because they'll never do it. So you got to take care of yourself first and foremost.
Right, right. Um, Tanika Owens, I was just ignored. I was told
I
to
read
read and work. Oh, you did that one. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. Shannon Reese says, no, wait, this is the one I was going to say. Oh, yeah. Karma isn't a bad thing. Look at it as neutral. But some of the hardest lessons in life are the most painful, although it's so hard to understand when we are going through such pain. Very true. It is hard. It's really hard.
I think every day is hard on some level.
Right, James? Oh, my God.
Really do. On some level, it's very, very hard.
Okay, Debbie Jones Griffin. My grandfather completed suicide long before we were born when my father was a small child. My brother also completed suicide. Is that a pattern that repeated itself? Yes. And that's where family constellation therapy could really help that, because in a family constellation therapy, they open what's called the morphogenic field and start to untangle all of this stuff. And it's an extraordinary form of healing.
And Kelly, I wonder if it's part of it. Part of it might be genetic. What do you think? I don't know. You think
Could
part of it
be.
might
Could
genetic?
be. Absolutely. Could be.
I think that might be just like alcoholism and many other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Might be a tendency. There might be a tendency toward that way of behavior.
Mhm.
Many of our souls, they might have a tendency towards something, and those tendencies towards something usually have past lives. Or let's say they died of alcoholism at a certain age. Let's say they died at 38. Well, when 38 comes the next lifetime, they might have something like there'll be a fork in the road, and they have a choice to make, because the old self will bring back that memory, or they're going to pass it and choose to go the same way or something brand new.
Right, exactly. I love this one from Frank Sanchez. When I was younger, I got bullied by my whole family because I was the black sheep of the family, basically. I chose to do soul work. Now my family calls me for advice. Black sheep are the leaders of the pack.
You bet.
They are. Yes, they are.
We are, yep.
Oh my gosh.
Because we step forward, we do things other people wouldn't. We step out of the box.
That's so true. Regina Clark, is it possible that some of the dysfunctional aspects happen because we are in a family that is not part of our soul group, so we can't find common ground, and maybe we don't need to?
Wow. We might have different answers to that. I don't know the full answer to that. I would say that things just don't happen arbitrarily. There's a reason behind everything that happens. I would think if they want, I don't know this, but I would say that for me, souls would not waste their time. If they're going to evolve quicker by knowing each other, that would be quicker. They would take that route. They wouldn't necessarily take a route where they don't know someone. But maybe that's another part of the lesson, even a stronger part of the lesson. So Any possible.
That's a good answer for that. Diane Hawk, mom was a narcissist, dad was physically abusive and had affairs, and my only sibling was a psychopath.
Wow.
Oh
Wow.
man. And I really appreciate everybody giving us the scoop here. I mean, it's
So many books to write. Okay.
so right, James. See, my book will be easy. They all taught me how not to treat people and how to be kind. Right. The other side raised me. Oh, bless your heart. She said, I have dyslexia and went on to be the only college graduate in our family.
Good for you.
Bravo, Diane. What a story. Oh my gosh.
Here, Miss Kent, is there a book that talks about the order of children born in a family? Yes, Kelly's writing it, and how that plays a role in growing up.
It's actually in my first chapter. Yeah,
it is. It is. I know it very well.
It's important. I think it's important. James and I will do a show on it, but because I think birth order is important. Gayleen, hi Gayleen. Hi from Tasmania, James. Wow.
Hi there, Tasmania. Well, I've been there. Lovely.
She says, I have a beautiful family, but find this interesting. Well, God bless you, Gayleen. You and the 3% else out there. That's great. I think that's super. Okay, Sherry Craft. My lesson left me with no self-esteem, and I was told I was ugly and never good enough. I'm so sorry, Sherry. So again,
that's not true. Now turn that around. Right. What do you think of yourself?
Right.
Don't let others define you. Never let others, family, parents, lovers, partners, friends define you.
Never.
They don't know you.
Never.
You know yourself better.
Oh my God. Karen Sweeney says, I believe we must all be advanced souls this lifetime because of all the triggers that we've had. It's very true. I really, it's possible, you know. I love this. Carrie Nuthall. She says, we can be healers for the system even without their participation. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's so true. Sharon M. Black sheep scapegoat here. After being blamed for everything for so long, I do wonder if I am the problem. Well, Sharon, I don't know because I haven't seen your family system, but I would say that if I would find a good therapist for this. I really would.
Yeah, a lot of it too is from your past. So I mean, a therapist would be fantastic. But a trauma therapist for a lot of you.
Trauma therapist would be great. Shannon Reese, abuse. I'm cutting the cords. I've lived my whole life in abuse, which I'm finally breaking away. But why would a parent sexually abuse a child? Oh, Shannon, I wish I knew the answer to that.
I've been asking myself that for a long time, but I never understood that. So it seems that's very cyclical too, the generational.
Yes, it's generational trauma. It would be somebody from somebody from somebody.
I once saw someone like that, and it was very interesting because I could see this person's older man, his father, was very sad, but always an abuser, and he was abusive. He was abuser. He was known as abuser, and I felt really bad because I just knew his father abused him and stuff like. But that's what happened, and that's what happens in that kind of abuse. It seems to pattern. It's
a pattern, generational.
Yeah,
and that's and I would say you were here to break that pattern. But boy, it's awful. Okay, hi Laura, hello Kelly and James. What if you really just don't like most of your family? Okay, so I love them, but we are just so very different. I dread holidays, weddings, and funerals. Okay, if you haven't seen Succession, there's a great line where she says, I love you, but I can't stomach you.
Right.
I love that line.
I think that everybody's got to realize that you don't have, just because of your family, just because your siblings, your husband, your wives, your kids, your friends, you don't have to love them. You don't have to hang out with them.
Exactly. You do not.
Then don't feel that societal pressure. You don't have to hang out.
Right. James Beard. Oh, James Bird. I was thinking of James Beard. I had Wayne Dyer, Louise Hayes, Sylvia Brown, and James Van Prague to guide me. Using my spiritual gifts in a dysfunctional family was a gift.
Great, James.
Oh,
fantastic.
That is so good to hear. So, this I get asked this question a lot too. Jacqueline Francis, she says, how can one establish a relationship with an adult child who broke off all communication? There's a great therapist, and somebody just told me about him the other day, and I'll put his name up. He does, oh God, I'm forgetting. Lori Counts, if you're watching, would you put it up here for me? Joshua, I'm forgetting his last name. I'm so sorry. But this guy actually works with families where they have no more communication with either grandchildren or kids or adults. Or he's amazing and great therapist for that. So I'll find his name and put it up here. Okay. Can you talk about unconditional love?
Well, me and then you, Kelly. Okay. Well, I have Pearl here, and she's unconditional love, so she teaches me that. Maisie before her taught me that. I think animals teach us that, and I try to live like that. I try to live like I try.
You actually do, James.
I do, and for my way of doing that, I try to find God in every person, that light in everyone, that everybody has a positivity about them. Everyone. I try to find. Sometimes it's a little harder to find it than a lot of times, but it's there somewhere. And I tried doing that, and that's why again, going back to that sense of boundaries and unrealistic expectations, they might not have known the things that they did or the things that are possible or how they behaved or how they threatened other people. They might not even be aware of that because they're so unconscious. They're just unconscious. So don't pull their energy in. Don't live their energy. A friend of mine was talking this weekend about her mom. Her mom pulled out my daughter-in-law's energy, the boyfriend, her son's energy, because she wanted to resolve it. But don't live on their negative energy. You have your own soul to be mindful of. That's number one.
So true.
Because that happens twice too. It's when I did it and you taking it on becomes two in fear.
Right, exactly. Amanda Obangan, she said, my father has bipolar, borderline personality disorder, and a narcissist. So the continuum, it starts with narcissist, then it goes to borderline personality, and then it goes to psychotic or psychopath. I cut him out of my life 5 years ago. Sometimes I struggle with wondering if I'm being too harsh. No. However, he has caused me a lot of trauma through physical, mental, and emotional abuse. Any insight for me?
Right, that. No, because of those things, and you're better than
let me tell you, Amanda, I understand this one very well. And no, you're doing the right thing. Set that boundary. And it's really hard when you have a parent like that. It's sad. It's heartbreaking. And yet you've got to have the strength and the your ego strong enough that you can say, no, I can't do it.
You're doing the healthy thing for yourself. You're doing the right thing for yourself. You're protecting yourself. And that's a wise choice. Yeah, it's a wise choice. Absolutely. Ann Buffington, people shouldn't go around destroying other human beings. You're right, Ann. They should not. That's right. Oh my gosh, it's so true. So James, tell me what's going on with you this week. Do you have any I know you're going to be doing readings. My private reading, and then we're opening up another time for more people for readings at a lower price for more people. And if they want to join us, and we have my meditation course is coming up at the end of this month. And I'm very, very excited because that's been over for 3 years. I know you've been working so hard on that. Yeah. So that's all coming to the end of that. And I'm going to do another workshop. We're just starting thinking about doing a workshop on color. Ooh. That's it. So otherwise than that, I'm doing the July. I'll be in Encinitas, California, San Diego at the Seaside Center. That's on my website, medprog.com. And that's it. Otherwise, I'll be back doing some more stuff, Facebook Lives and so forth. And good. What about you, Paul? Just have my show on Thursdays. Ask me anything this Thursday. Join me. Anyway, well, thank you, everybody. And thanks, you, James. Everyone. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now and Beyond, featuring spiritual medium and master teacher James Van Praagh and spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kellee White.
That was great. Maybe we changed some lives.
And maybe opened up some minds.
Which way do I turn?
Right. I mean left.